Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Sarah Jane Adventures review. And today's Sarah Jane Adventures review is none other than The Day of the Clown. Now, if you're anyone who likes films such as It or Killer Clowns from Outer Space, then I tell you this is the story for you. It's a normal day at school for Clyde and Luke, except it's not really. It turns out that a new student has turned up, her name Rani Chandra. And along with her comes a new teacher. A teacher that, of course, Clyde, being the class clown, is gonna do everything in his power to get at. However, when he finds out that this teacher is none other than Rani's dad, oh, it's trouble in paradise. But that's besides the point. Back to the plot of the story. So Rani gets caught up with Luke and Clyde and soon begins to realise that something weird is going on. Rani is also obsessed with journalism and begins to try and get in Sarah Jane's good books. However, what makes this very hard for Rani is the fact that Sarah Jane isn't quite sure that she wants to bring another kid into the fray after Maria Jackson has left the street. But due to the fact of the disappearances and kids going missing at the circus, it becomes very apparent that things aren't quite what they seem in Bannerman Road. A man wearing a circus outfit seems to be inviting people inside to come and watch a show, but when they go in, they don't come out again. On top of that, it turns out that a particular clown from an American Horror Story seems to have been turning up in the town and snatching kids away in the wisp of a wind. When Sarah and the team finally go to investigate, they soon find themselves in a position in which they find themselves up against an alien entity. When Sarah begins to interview the man who is dressed up as a ringmaster, he explains to her that over the ages there has been many a performer in the clown makeup. He explains the traveller, but he says none are quite as good as the Pied Piper himself. Sarah then points out to him that she knows the story of the Pied Piper. He snatched away the kids of Hamlet after the townspeople wouldn't pay. This is what begins to get the circus master in a fit of giggles, as he knows the truth behind this story, and tells Sarah Jane Smith that she's a little bit too clever for her own good. The Pied Piper, the ringmaster, and the clown are all the same person. And it turns out that the Pied Piper is back once again to steal children away in the wisp of a wind, to give parents that eternal shriek until his debt is paid. Except this time, rather than using rats and such, he decides that the best course of action is to take the children away using balloons. Using the balloons to hypnotize them. It also turns out that in the second half of this story, when Sarah Jane goes to investigate, after all, she doesn't quite believe in the Pied Piper and his myth, is that the Pied Piper is actually very real in this story. But he is kind of a cosmic entity that seems to come from the same place as the trickster, some alternate dimension beyond time itself, where reality itself doesn't play to the laws of nature. This really seems to play into the idea that the Pied Piper is most probably another member of the Pantheon of Discord. He has the power, of course, and these powers are so extraterrestrial that it is kind of really, really intimidating throughout this whole story. It's not quite clear whether Sarah Jane Smith will ever manage to beat the Pied Piper. However, the beauty of this is the answer to this story. Clyde Langer, the class comedian, the class clown, he doesn't really take things seriously, and most importantly, he likes to make people laugh. He's freaked out by the clowns in the circus, and so he begins to make jokes to essentially help himself cope with what's going on around him. However, This doesn't fare too well on the Pied Piper. He can't stand it. He feels like every time a joke is told, they're laughing at him. And so this is how they manage to destroy the Pied Piper. Once and for all. At the end of this story, Rani is opened with welcome arms, and a new era begins in the Sarah Jane Adventures, as Rani Chandra is finally opened up to this mad universe of aliens, monsters, and all sorts. So what else lies in store for her on Bannerman Road? So, Day of the Clown. What did I think of this story? I absolutely love this story because it really inspired one of my own writing. I have on this channel an audio called Revenge of the Pied Piper, and that is heavily based on this story. I like this story because anything kind of out of the ordinary, and don't get me wrong, even myself up to a certain age, I was a bit wary of clowns, but I do feel like the way that they are told and the way that they are kind of at least given credit for being performers rather than things that are supposed to be freaks of nature is absolutely incredible. I like it because Bradley Walsh absolutely sells me on Mr. Smellman and the Pied Piper. The way that he goes from such a serious character to such a creepy little man who owns a theatre and was once the Pied Piper who stole away people's children is that kind of cold-hearted, sinister side to him. And I feel like it's what is so brilliant about this story. And for that reason, I give Day of the Clown a solid 10 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next Sarah Jane Adventures review. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, and have an incredible day, you beautiful people.